Hi, everyone. I'm really happy that we are all together because community is what we all need when we're living through interesting times, as they say. Today, our intention is to share insights and tactics, perhaps, and even stories about how we support our communities in crisis. Today, my heart is with my hometown of Altadena, California. I was born and raised there. And this current fire, really touches me very closely because I know these people and I know this area. I've been watching Watch Duty pretty reliably, and as the fires began, I was sharing Watch Duty with my Southern California friends who didn't all know about it. Like we Northern Californians, live and breathe Watch Duty in fire season. And, watching the fire maps and, looking, my childhood home is a block from the fire line, my grade
Wow.
school and my high school, and the cemetery where my mother is buried is in the fire line. So it's really personal. And I'm really glad that we can be together because it's my intention to help people with our work in flower essences. We have the capacity to give somebody something really on point and helpful for the trauma, for the shock, for the extreme disruption to their lives that happens during these increasingly common events. And I think it's really important for all of us to have some skills at working, reaching out to our community members or to people that know people in that community, because we have a lot to offer. And I'm really eager to hear what you are thinking about doing because unfortunately, we're getting a lot of practice at this. I've seen some people talking about Asheville, and the eye of the media is it's a shiny object, whatever is they're looking at right now, and we forget what the loss was 2 weeks ago, and we forget the crisis in a community that was a month ago. So it's really important for us as those who help, as those who care, to remember about the crisis that's not the crisis of the moment. So my heart goes out to those in North Carolina who are absolutely still struggling, and those in Florida who are absolutely still struggling, and then, and on and on and on and on. So I'd really love for this to be an opportunity for us to share some things that we're doing, and to talk about how we can support our communities in crises large and small. So that's the intention today. Welcome, everyone. Does anybody have something that they'd like to start out with? I have a few ideas and thoughts. And thanks, Patsy. You've heard from essence practitioner in Asheville who's sending essences and sprays to California. Community is everything in these circumstances. So the more that we can be connected and know where the others are, we can help more. So there isn't yet that I know of a wonderful central location where we can all get to connect with one another. But at least right now we have this chat. And so everyone who is, zooming in from different places, I'd love to, if you didn't get the early chat that I encourage people to write where they are, we'd love to know where you are, and to start, go ahead and pop your hand up if you have a thought on what you'd like to share. Yeah, please, Barbara.
So, in addition to flower essences, I work with herbs. And when everything became such a disaster in North Carolina and Florida and parts of Tennessee, um, I'm connected with a larger herbal community who immediately knew who the herbalists were. They sent out requests, and the entire community had some place to send items that were needed. But I don't know how to connect with florists and practitioners in places where something like this is occurring. And I haven't seen them on social media saying, "Hey, I'm a flower essence practitioner. Could we could use this down here. I'm not seeing any of that. And so um, I guess part of my question is how to connect with those folks so something can be set up um, and distributed and participate in a similar way that I was able to see in the herbal community. So it's a question and a statement all in the same place.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that the herbal community can be a really good community to connect into because, like you're saying, they're more established and they're better known, and they do tend to be really well connected. So that would be a really good place is to connect to the herbal community and find out who's doing what where. And if you have an herbal community in your area to connect to them because they may be connected to people and we're talking about this particular crisis, but let's be thinking more broadly because we can be preparing and connecting and being more helpful as things go forward. So yeah, thank you. I think that's a good starting place is the herbal community. Ro, do you have something to share? I feel like you do. Yeah.
You saw
Got
my
mind
raised
meld going
hand
on. No.
before I raised it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, whenever a disaster strikes, I tend to go right to the Herbalists Without Borders website, because they generally get on the ground and connect with the people, and find out what's needed, and they include flower essences in the work that they do. But it is so when it's so soon and so early in a crisis, it's really there's really that nobody knows yet, and it's like too soon. So when I first checked their website when this started, they hadn't even had it updated. They were still dealing with hurricane relief, but now it looks like they've updated the website and they are supporting those impacted by the West Coast fires, and they're taking care packs. So you can look at their website and keep up and see. Last time I looked at it, they did have a list, and were able to take some flower essences. Sometimes it's more a matter of just sending money, and money's going to help, uh, you know, get people what they need right away. But I do love that organization because they have that herbal response, and it is, you know, more than nationwide. They try to, go where they're needed throughout. So it's the only organization I know of that is doing that, and I like to support it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good one. And maybe you can put the link in the chat so that people can go straight there and see what the needs are. And Laurel, I see. Thank you for coming in. You're in Pasadena. So if you would like to be connected with the people on this call, if you would be so kind as to maybe if you feel like it, putting your email address there so that people can reach out to you. And we're sending you lots of flowers to get through this because like you're saying, Ro, the news puts us or all of our attention, and it's oftentimes too soon. That was part of my experience with the Sonoma fires was is that in the immediate when people are evacuating and running for their lives essentially, that's not the moment. And give it a beat and then jump in. Please, Ruth, you have a thought.
Yeah, it's just that, when the North Carolina flooding and, destruction happened, we had one fluorescence practitioner locally that I put in contact with Patsy as well, and I donated bottles. I had them shipped to her address. So this is something we can set up even today to say, okay, Laurel, shall we send you bottles? Do you want to be preparing? And also even Hannah, who is the one in Asheville, she spoke with my friend Annette from Brazil, who gave her kind of the instructions on the dilution, on the kind of workflow on how to prepare. And so we can put Laurel in contact with Hannah, and we can send donations to Laurel of both stock essences as well as bottles. so that to speed things up, because otherwise it's going to take a while until we contact someone in the herbal community and get them to respond as far as the Eaton fire.
Yeah, I
Thank
would
you.
need a little help. I've never done this before, and I can receive the materials, but I don't really, I'm still evacuated. My house is there. So I'm hoping in a few more days I'll be back. I'm not sure who to get them to or how to distribute them, or and also a lot of people aren't familiar with flower essences, and they think they might be scared of them. I've seen that with people. I think it helps when it's a manufactured label rather than, with the actual official label on it, rather than things I'm putting together myself and putting a handwritten label on, unless it's people I know or they're, you know.
Yeah, it's I don't know if FES is still doing the relief work, whether they are able to donate materials, which they have done in the past.
I'm
They've
going to contact them.
Yeah, yeah. And, if you are at all connected in your neighborhood with other people who are doing other types of healing modalities, that is a really good loop to get into. Because when we had our Sonoma fires, we had multiple people who were organizing events, and they were coming from the sort of the holistic healing community. They weren't doing flower essences, but they were doing body work or acupuncture or herbalists. And, they all were able to connect together and be able to provide events and, open, sort of like open house kind of scenarios. So that was a really good connecting point where you didn't have to do it all yourself. There were people who were wanting to come together and bring different types of healing.
Yeah, I've already, there's a chiropractic clinic called the Altadena Healing Arts Center, and I know they'd be open to that kind of thing, but they're in a cordoned off area yet, and my chiropractor's house burned down. And I also know an acupuncturist who might be able to do that. And when my other friend whose house burned down is functional, I think she has probably a massage therapist and a whole network of homeschooling people that, something could happen there. It's like you said, it's early days because we're scattered. I don't even know where half of my friends are, but in a few more days, we're waiting for the winds to calm down and the weather to get a little more humid, which supposedly is going to happen this weekend, but it keeps going, oh, yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And as people start being able to come back and get in touch with each other, it should be easier to start something like that. I know that people are exhausted just from having to reply to say, yes, I'm safe and my house is or isn't burnt down and I'm with friends somewhere. So even to answer, texting and stuff like that is hard right now. But that could change pretty quickly once things settle down, I think. I hope.
I hope so too. I'm sorry. I'm so much empathy for you. It's really fresh and I remember, and it's really, really hard and exhausting. I hope that you have some essences on hand to support yourself, because you got to do yourself first, and then you can put masks.
I didn't evacuate them, but somebody went and got me some post-trauma stabilizer and grief relief, and I always carry Rescue Remedy and Yes Formula. So, and I did send some to my chiropractor. I ordered them for her, but that's all. So far.
That's a lot. You're doing great. Hang in there, and this is firsthand what it's like. You're not in the place right now where you can get all active and organized, and that's not possible.
Yeah.
And so just know that when you are able, us as a community, we want to help support whatever that you are able to do and want to do. And even if you never want to or never are able to, when you find other people who are looking for helpers, keep us looped in.
Yeah,
because
I'll be able to. I have a house,
yeah,
and yeah, I'll be able to.
hang in there, Laurel. Ruth?
I was thinking that perhaps one thing that we could do would be to share how we volunteered and offered the essences in Santa Rosa that was affected by a firestorm, um, and what were the most popular combinations that people would pick.
Please, Ruth, go for it.
Yeah. So one thing that on that occasion, FES shipped their formulas, and we had a few different situations. One was the one that Kathleen just mentioned, but a few other situations, like there was, for instance, this herb store that organized an open house, let's say, in the front of the store, outside, outdoors, and they put out some tables. And I went there as a volunteer, and Kathleen joined me with the FES combinations. And what we did was to lay those combinations with their labels showing, and we would invite people to take a look and feel what was calling them. So there were people who would go straight to the grief relief and pick it up. Grief relief and post-trauma stabilizers were the two main ones, but also another one that came up in the one-to-one sessions that I did in the other situation, where there were all these healers. There were people offering massage, people offering herbal, and everyone was volunteering and had their tables in this public space. And the Flora Sleep was another one that came up quite significantly because it has both the olive and white chestnut and red chestnut. So it attends to that state of vigilance that people get into. And so for a lot of people, that was the one. So if we go back to looking at the components of post-trauma stabilizer, grief relief, and which deals with loss, and for a sleep that deals with this state of vigilance, and the scenes are coming back and I can't really relax. Perhaps these can be foundational essences to be put together. I would also think of soul support from the Alaskan essences, because soul support has so much of the wisdom that Steve Johnson had as a firefighter himself, of putting together these plants that are the plants that are bringing that force of nature of rebuilding when everything is falling apart. And so I think if we look at these combinations and their themes, we know what to be offering. It becomes more simple and clear. Now, if we don't have the product with the original label, as Laurel said, of course, it would be the best. It would be the easiest for people to relate to. But then maybe we can have some volunteer here who can make some labels and print them out and ship them, so that you can have something that looks pretty, professional, not, a product, but something that looks respectable for you to put on those bottles. And I think offering in a spray format is the best, because that can be shared with the whole family. Everyone can reach out and take it. Yeah, so those are preliminary suggestions.
And don't forget, just, people are, getting I really liked some of the suggestions from our Brazilian practitioners about how they were just dosing water bottles, just disposable water bottles, just because those are a lot of people are giving those out. It's like, if you want me to put essences in that bottle, then let's do that. And that's a quick and easy way to get, if you're in personal range with somebody, or if they're in a shelter or something, you could always offer that, because there's often that possibility available. It's important. Something that I put on Facebook this morning, because I have I use Facebook. I like Facebook, and well, I mean, kind of like it. But Facebook is a good place to connect with people, for me. And I put a notice on Facebook this morning because it was too earlier than now. But I put one this morning about the same sort of offer that I provided during the Sonoma fires, which is, I'm happy to speak to anybody for a brief little session and create a crisis formula for you and ship it to you. And I don't have to be in physical presence for that, and I can just pop it in the mail. And it's just a volunteer service that I can provide. And I'm happy to do that for those who are suffering and struggling with the trauma of this. So I've just put it out there, and I don't think that, that's something that a lot of us could do if we wanted to, if we had any connection to people, or just put it out there, because it's a small volunteer service. I'm paying the postage and the bottle, and it's not that much. I don't have a fortune to spend, on putting a bunch of money in GoFundMe's, which I wish I could, but this I can do. Yeah. Yeah, please, Ro.
Yeah, along the same lines, there's generally relief events that start to form after the dust starts to settle, and the what we had in Sonoma County was there were various raffles, like various different organizations doing raffles to help support the victims of the fire. And so that was something that I did, was gave away several, flower essence sessions at the time. And then also during the fires, the supporting the firefighters was a big thing here, in Sonoma County. And if for any of the herbalists here, or anyone who is at least on the, knows of herbal organizations or people doing that kind of um, on the ground support. What we had here was a group making herbal tea for the firefighters, and making giant batches of it every day. And then my job was to take it to them. And so I'd take these big batches and drive over to where they're staying, because if you think about the sheer number of firefighters, and they work in shifts, and so there's always going to be an off shift uh, wherever they're stationed to sleep. And in this case, it was a camp that was nearby. So several of us volunteers would go and hand out this herbal tea for their lungs and their throat. And they were just grateful. And it was amazing because they, it it didn't matter if they knew anything about herbs or anything like that, just to have that kind of care, knowing that it was something that was helpful for them. It was a really wonderful feeling as a volunteer, just to see that kind of um, openness to it. And there were, at the same time, there were, again, people in the wellness community. There were massage therapists that had tables out, and offering their services as well. So it's really beautiful to see the community come together that way. And it helped in my own healing of the trauma of the fires as well. So it's definitely something to look around and see if there's any. I think you have to kind of get into either social media or word of mouth to try to figure out who's doing what in that case. But it's really well worth it once you have, if you're in the thick of it, once you have the you're able to Like, also don't force yourself to try to be a first responder if you're not ready to be a first responder, because, or a second responder, or whatever a responder, you have to really, like Kathleen said, fill your cup first, and don't feel the pressure of being out there doing all the things when these things happen. We all have to kind of deal with it in our own way, and not have guilt about not being uh, like some of the people you might see or encounter that are responders.
100% to every piece of that. Thank you. Thanks for that. Was a really good, and I love what you're saying is like they weren't, you know, when you're in that circumstance, you don't get those questions of, can I see the case studies on this? Can I, what's the scientific evidence for this working? Those questions are out the window. It's sort of like the whole "there's no atheists in foxholes" thing. People who, if you have if you have something to offer, they are really, really happy. They really feel the genuineness of your offering, and there are the boundaries against trying something new, they go right out the window. So it is a certain sad opportunity that we have to share something with somebody that will help them, that we know will help them. And the obstacles to them trying and accepting something new are much lower, let's say. Thank you. Does anyone else want to share anything? We'd love to hear what you've been doing in other circumstances, the thoughts, ideas that you might have. And we can feel free to put it in the chat as well. And Pam, it sounds like you're currently in Lahaina. I don't know if you're there traveling or if you're there as part of the recovery efforts, but that's certainly another area that's in great need of people helping. So it's really beautiful that everyone's here today and we're all on some level radiating outwards. And hopefully some of you will also be able to be part of the open circle at 5 o'clock today, Pacific time, where we're going to be radiating more healing out. So please join us for that. One of the pieces that I'm reminding myself to get engaged in is to, like Laurel was saying, it's exhausting to receive all sorts of texts and such from people who care. And I hope that when you get those texts, people aren't upset if they don't hear right back from you, because hopefully they know that connections are difficult right then and you're also really tired. But I have just been reaching out to people that I know who are directly impacted and just telling them I'm thinking about them. I'm not asking them for details about what's going on, and having them because I'm curious, not a good reason to ask questions, but just to let them know I'm thinking about them and I care and that I'm there for them if and when they want to reach back out. So not putting any pressure on that heart connection of just letting them know I care and I haven't forgotten about them, and I'm thinking about them. And then when things get a little bit further down the road, one of the things that I try to make notes of and remind myself to check back in with people periodically, who've struggled or who've had this dreadful experience, whatever it might be, whether it's a disaster or whether it's a personal loss, like a grief situation, is just to like keep a record, because we are all short-term memory people. And 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, that was a million years ago, right? But it's totally not a million years ago for the person who experienced that. And so if we have some sort of, memory aid to remember to check back in with people and see how they're doing. So a month from now, if we don't live in the immediate area, we've kind of forgotten about it. We've sort of gone, oh, that was back in the past. And to just check back in with them and see how they're doing and just be really open about, is there anything I can do for you? And I try to, if possible, be as specific with my offers as I can. Because what I've found is if I'm in a grief or if I'm in a crisis, if somebody just kind of gives an open-ended, is there anything I can do? It just sort of hits me like another thing I have to do is figure out how to get them to do. It's just wump, and I'm just like, and most of us will just be like, I don't know, I'm fine. We're all fine, right? But if we can give a really specific offer of, can I make you some flower essences, or can I bring you some soup, or whatever, being as specific as possible with your offers is a very helpful thing to do to somebody who's experiencing a grief of any sort. That's what I've experienced from multiple sides of the equation. Does anybody have anything that they've found that was really helpful for? Thanks, Miriam. You say that you're texting people, letting them know letting them know that you're thinking of them, and the specific offers. Good, good. Yeah, I'd really love to hear from the group here, hear more voices, because it's really important for us to all be able to share. Yes, please, Eloisa.
I'm at work, so you hear the music. I had been slow. I mean, I've been communicating with friends because I have family and friends in Los Angeles, and several that have lost their homes. And so, donating, GoFundMe, that sort of thing, and to other causes. But I kept thinking, if I just like put on my website, if anyone wants to contact me for a session for free, that it's just too kind of weird, that maybe it would be easier if I just put some sessions like EFT on there for that. And I was wondering and I can do that. I mean, we all have Gmail accounts. Most of us have Gmail accounts, and we can be doing that as well, on our websites and on our YouTube. Sorry, did I say that right? We all have YouTube by virtue of having a Gmail account. So you can do that on your YouTube channels. And I was wondering, based on Ruth, your wonderful open circles, and how you radiate the flower essence to, everyone, if that's something that can also be done in the same way on the websites and YouTube. Can you speak to that?
Yeah,
And thank you for
Eloise,
this.
yeah, I was thinking about you and the Reiki the other day. It just came to me, I was thinking about you and Reiki, and in some ways, I would say each one of us can create a little altar with some essences and kind of radiate that intention from our hearts through those essences to reach everyone who needs. And also, if you have colleagues, two or three that may get together, just as Eloise was suggesting, we can connect with some of these healing plants and broadcast these qualities out. So that's something we can do immediately that does help and works like the open circles, which of course, even tonight, we are going to do that as a bigger group as well. And apart from that, also, perhaps one thing that we can do, I'm just throwing it out without asking Ro beforehand, but we could create a page in our School for Fluorescent Studies website in which we could actually include the lecture on the table we had at the conference on work, relief work, and some of the suggestions that I just gave here, and links to some pages of the FES website, just so people have a place that they can go as a resource, where all the information is laid out. And so if you, Eloise, if you want to create a web page offering the EFT, and then you can say there's also the flower essences that I may be able to prepare and ship to you if you're interested. And then you can link to that page. Do you think we can put that together, Ro? I would help.
Yeah, we could do a resource page.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, it's
something
similar
easy for
to
us.
some of the resources I listed in the email, and
Exactly.
then, gather a few more up, and just have a resource page. And then if there's any practitioners who are offering any services, send us your links and we can add those to the page.
Great.
Fantastic. See? Actionable steps. We can do this. If if the last 5 years have taught us nothing, it's that we don't actually have to be in physical space together. We can do a lot remotely, and we can do a lot together when we all come together in that way. So I love the idea of offering, Reiki blessings and that sort of work, Eloisa, on YouTube. That's fantastic. I really think that so many of us have been taught that we have to do these grand heroic gestures where we have to save thousands of whatevers, and it's like, no, it's one person to one person. And if you've helped one person, that's valuable. And that's why I'm doing my little thing, that I'm offering. It's like, I don't care how many people I can help. I'm going to help as many people as I can. But if I can help one person and I can send out one bottle, I've done something, and I've been able to help somebody. And that's really what any of us can do for the most part.
Yeah, and I'll just add one example. When there was the fire in Paradise, there was one woman that I knew who was an artist, and I had a lot of art materials that I wasn't using. She lost everything, so I sent her essences and I sent her the art materials that I wasn't using. And so, you know, those are things that just one person. When there was this fire in Colorado, I also offered to volunteer, and there was this one woman who had lost her house, and I, worked with her in some short sessions twice and sent her the essences. So each one of us can do, like Kathleen is saying, just help one person or two. Let's do it.
Patsy, please.
Patsy.
Well, now that you brought up the art aspect, I don't have a tremendous amount of healing things that I can share, but I don't know, I could be an artist. And right now my living room is covered up with 40 pieces of art that I'm going to donate to a local charity for the unhoused. So there you can use your greater abilities and talents to impact. It's hard to ship art, so I kind of work locally with this, but there's many things we can do to contribute, and help out. Thank you.
Thanks, Patsy. That's a really good idea. And that, loops a little bit into what you were saying earlier, Rose, is looking for charitable opportunities, whether they're tightly related to this or more broadly related, but there's almost always something that we could offer. Barbara, please.
So, in some of the news stories, you hear of people losing contact with their pets and then being able to reconnect. I know that there are some farms taking their horses to different places. So these animals are also experiencing trauma. What, other than finding a veterinarian, I'm on the East Coast, not on the West Coast. How, uh, what would be a good place to go and offer services or supplies or what have you uh, in assisting with animal trauma?
Arnell, looks like you might have some feedback, please.
if you go to chewy.com, not that I'm advertising any company or anything, they all always have an ability. And I have to say, I'm not prepared to give you the actual link. But if you go to Chewy, you can actually donate to rescue, specifically to shelter dogs. And in this case, Chewy is working with displaced animals from, and excuse me if I get emotional because this is extremely close to home. We have lost two people's lives this year. My daughter has lost her grounding places where she got coaching. She knows personally 15 of her personal close friends and clients that have been burnt out entirely. They have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. And this is going to sound terrible, and I don't want to throw any negative in here, but if any of us can send out positive energies, is the gouging that is going on in regards to the homing. It looks great on the news for Airbnb, but these people that have these things are raising the prices 15 to 50%. They have no place to live, let alone have anything. They don't even know where they're going to go because there is no, if you've never ever been to LA, there is no place to live. Everything is short-term rental. They don't have, I mean, this is an example. There's a Brentwood 2-bedroom apartment going for $29,000 a month. I don't know in their right mind who can afford that. So, but back to your question regarding animals, Chewy is working with, you can specifically put an amount in, or you can go in and purchase and say, I want this much food to go, however you choose to do it. But Chewy.com is working with that, with shelter animals. I know that people who can't take their animals to go find a place, they're trying to stay in a motel, a Motel 6, and it won't allow the animals in. I mean, to me at this time, with disasters, left to lose your house and everything around you, to have to then relinquish your pet to a shelter, who then the shelters here in LA can't get them to any place, so they're being shipped to Utah and out of state. So if we can just send out healing energy for all of this, that we can, maybe people can pick up and see the humanity and the compassion to these people who've lost everything. That, people say it's great, they're going to go and find a short term. It was like, there is no place. They can't go up and down the coast. They can't even go to San Diego. There's no place for them to go. Even if they left the Palisades or the Altadena area, there's no place. And for bless the people in Altadena that's a very mixed group. It's not the Palisades, obviously. Not everybody in the Palisades is rich. I just want to let you know that. They're already being approached by venture capitalists to sell up their property, pennies on the dollar. And when you're devastated and have nothing, you're not even paying attention to like what they're giving up. And I think we in the flower essence community and the Reiki community and all of us with our energies and the herbalist communities need to send this out, that we need healing energy to the people's souls. It's the soul of the humanity that needs to be healed. And not just the people that were traumatized, but the people that are looking, and it's called disaster capitalism. And that's the title that's given to it. My God, where are we to put a title on a disaster? And I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
I grew up there. That was where I was raised. And to see it leveled, it looks like a bomb. It looks like a battle area. And it sounds crazy, but it looks like, God, it's worse. It has been leveled. And the toxicity in the ground, in the water, into the ocean. They've blocked the beaches. People can't go in the ocean. It is so toxic now. From the runoffs, from the fires of everything that the homes are built with, to the fire extinguishing FOSS check. And I'm just saying is, if we can all just pray and send out that energy that people's souls will be kind and recognize it. And this group, I know we have that soul. And I know if we can come together as a collective, that soul can be multiplied over and over and over. So, but reach out to Chewy is one place. And the other thing is just reach out to some of the local shelters also that are identifying it. And there are some lists in, I forget the website, and I will try and post it into the chat if I can find it on my phone, where the people's horses and small farm animals, I mean, and then you can also reach out to the wildlife area up there that is the forestry are actually up there collecting the wildlife, the deers, all the natural animals that don't live with us, domesticated, that have been displaced. And I didn't think I'd ever see something this tragic. There's over 6 million people. 6 million. It's bigger than some states in LA County that have been displaced in some way or the other. So I appreciate everyone's here and their effort to do whatever they can for the people in that area. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arnell, for sharing that very first person. And it's so hard. It's so hard. Thank you for sharing and helping us see the cost, the pain and the struggle and the suffering and the trauma, because it's good for us to know what's happening. Thanks for sharing that. Virginie.
So, like I told you, my best friend is in the epicenter of this fire. And I have other friends in Hollywood near Sunset. And there's something that I can offer at this present time is that on our property, we can have actually people, if they feel like they have a camper or an RV, they can actually come to our property and settle for a time and just to get in the hills, in the beauty of the hills of nature, and start to settle a little bit with everything. And I know we are in the very beginning aftershock of this, so I know the people who are still having their home and the fire is still going on, they still want to stay close to where they are. But I have offered this for my friends, but if there's anything for people who are in this group and in other of our groups that are local, we have that possibility. It's remote, but it's quiet, and also the peace is also a big important piece. It's finding inner peace and the turmoil. So nature helps with that if that can help.
Thank you, Virginie. It everyone who can do something, and that sounds like a really fantastic and concrete offer to be able to help people. I hope that the right people hear that and are able to come and experience that healing environment, because there's a lot of that needed. Thank you. Love to hear if anybody else has anything to share. Even if maybe right now we can bring some flowers into the space, some nature into the space. Ruth, you brought in earlier, the post-trauma stabilizer. And this is something that I know that we like to do when we teach, is talking about the essences that are in these formulas, because these formulas are intentionally created, and there's really useful essences in here that even if we're sort of stuck and we don't know what to offer, we can look through the list if we don't actually even have the bottle, and provide that as a healing gift. Markella, please.
Hello. I came to the group. I want to express my sympathy because here in Greece we also suffer from huge fires every year. And this August we had a very big fire which came very near to Athens. It was devastating. So I empathize. I will send Reiki to the area. And I love the idea Ruth told about this altar with flower essences. So I will combine with Reiki. And I will use it here in Greece if we have again some fires.
Yeah.
So my love to all of you.
Thank you, Markella. Yeah, it's important to remember that this is not, these sorts of changes and disasters are not confined to one area. And it's something that everyone is going to be touched by eventually, if they haven't already. So the sympathy to everyone who's experiencing it right now and who have experienced things like this. Yeah, the more that we can radiate that out. So thank you for that intention, and Ruth for the idea. Thank you.
I've got a question. I know that FES has, I can't think of it now, that fireweed-based formula, one for the land and one for people, but I'm not.
Magenta mantle.
Magenta,
Yeah.
yes, and I don't know about the one for the people would be the thing right now, but I don't know. Has anybody used that, or I'm not sure. Would that come later after post-trauma stabilizer,
I
or
would
what?
say later. Yeah, yeah. I think immediately the loss, the grief relief, the post-trauma, and also the florist sleep are go-to, and soul support are go-to for the immediate aftermath. But that could come later. Yeah, because it's a process, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you.
And feel free to, Laurel, to reach out to us. I'll speak for myself and for the team at Flower Essence Studies. Feel free to reach out to us, because there's a lot for you to try to keep. I can just hear, and I know I've been there, where you're in the middle of this and like getting 2 words out is hard, and remembering things is hard. And so reach out to us if we can
Thank
help,
you.
because it's so scattering. It's just
Yeah.
it shatters your ability to focus and to, like, it's like, have I even taken a shower recently? I don't know. I mean, just, where is my purse? Not even sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. So hard. So yeah, the post-trauma stabilizer, we were having this conversation in our mentoring group on Saturday about the role of arnica as a de-shattering agent, let's say, where it helps to restore, like the soul or spirit imprint. And it was a really great discussion, Ruth, that we were having about it, because I had never really thought about it that way. I've always thought about arnica more from the homeopathic of, a shock or a blow, but in the flower essence sense, it's as much as anything about, being sort of thrown out of your body and then being able to come back in your body. Would you like to share a little more about arnica, because we're talking about the post-trauma stabilizer?
Yeah, because arnica in the flower essence use is one that helps the soul to inhabit areas of the body that it's not inhabiting. And so, you come back in the wholeness, restoring that vibrancy template. So you're here and you're back with your soul warmth and presence. and with a sense of wholeness, filling in the embodied state again. Yeah. Also, I think one amazing thing is the fact that the green cross gentian is part of the post-trauma stabilizer. And recently we attuned to the green cross gentian. And one of the things that Patricia had shared with me in an email, and I ended up not having the space to talk about it in the circle that we did, but she talked about how she feels that this plant embodies the wisdom of the native people that have been, through genocide and left the land, but their wisdom is still in the land. And through this plant, the green cross gentian, there's this strength and this wisdom that is very vigorous, and it brings a level of faith that despite these tremendous trials that the earth is going through and that humans and animals and all are going through, that we may hold this wholeness and look at how we can create with more wisdom. Like Arnell was saying, we have to come from a place of much more connectedness with the fabric of life and with a commitment of building with wisdom.
Thanks, Ruth. And as part of what you were just saying, Jamie was writing in the chat, are there essences that help with a specific loss of home and the sense of being anchored somewhere? So thank you for answering that question as it was coming through, the Green Cross Gentian. And it does come to mind the post-trauma stabilizer does have a little bit of an essential oil in it. And recently when I was providing it, offering it to a client for animal use, she had the totally legit question about using, a little bit of essential oil for animals. And what we found was what really worked nicely was to be just offer it into the air over the animal, and the animal could walk away if they didn't want it. So that's a good solution for some of these formulas that are super handy, but we might be, concerned about using them with animals, or just attentive to and aware about using them with animals. Also, putting them on pulse points, putting them on your hand and stroking the animal is a really good way to use them without any concern about the a little bit of the small amount of essential oil. Erin is asking about a friend who's affected by the fire in Altadena and has fireweed on hand, and was asking me if this would be a good idea to take right now on its own. Yes, we say, take the essence that you have. If you have an essence, take it. But yes, fireweed is very appropriate and in alignment. Ruth, do you have a thought on that? Sorry.
I actually was going to answer Jamie, so I wasn't paying attention at the end of what you were asking.
I just saw your mic open. I thought you wanted to share
I was
something.
thinking of Jamie and fireweed combo and soul support for those who actually lost their homes, because I think soul support has essences that have to do with everything being taken away and everything being destroyed, and fireweed combo as well.
Yeah, perfect.
And sorry, I didn't hear the
No,
last.
not at all. I
just
I misread you. But yes, for Erin, for your friend about the fireweed, I would, I always think that if you've actually got something on hand, use it rather than something that might be perfect, because the flowers are not what we say they are. They're not a short descriptor of it does this, this, and this. They are nature intelligence that is constantly connected to the collective and the collective needs. So if you have a flower with you, take it, because it will help you in whatever way you need the help. They are much broader than we can imagine. So we're at the top of the hour now, and I want to thank you all for being here, sharing your hearts, sharing your stories, and being willing to be vulnerable and share how hard it is, because this is really hard, and we all need each other to support us all being resilient and surviving and trying to flourish in these times. And what we have to offer as flower essence people is what the world needs right now. And so fill your cup first and then see what you can do. And if it's one person you can help or one animal you can help, do that. And each one of us will radiate outward the healing blessings of the flowers. So if you have a moment after you get off the call today, please send a prayer or some Reiki, or hold the flowers and shift them to someone you know or someone you don't know, and send the blessings to our dear friends who are struggling. Thank you for being here, everyone.